Hello there and welcome to Bo Beats. My name is Bo and let's have a little sip of the coffee. Phew. So my first two synths were the Yamaha RM1X and the Yamaha DX100. The RM1X was a groove box which I understood fairly easily, and the second one was an FM synth which I didn't really have any clue how to operate. I was just super confused about FM synthesis in general. It almost felt like a foreign language to me and I just couldn't understand it. Now, I imagine that some of you are equally confused about FM synthesis as I was back then, so I thought I'd make a super beginner-friendly introduction to the world of FM synthesis. Now, if you already know FM synthesis, this video is probably not for you. You could go and watch some of my other videos instead if you want to. My aim with this video is simply to help you understand FM synthesis in a practical way so you can start exploring it for yourself. And big thanks to Yamaha for sponsoring this video. When I was researching this video, I came up with two main reasons. The first one is that FM uses a mathematical language, ratios, operators, algorithms, and math is perceived as being difficult to a lot of people, me included. Like, numbers literally stresses me out. The second reason is that FM synthesis differs greatly from classic subtractive synthesis, where the signal path, how sound moves through the synth, is often more linear and feels familiar. On most subtractive synths, you have an oscillator which generates a waveform, a sound, and you have a filter that removes frequencies, and some kind of amp envelope that gives the sound its main characteristic, whether it's a drawn-out sound or a quick, snappy one. FM instead often consists of many branches, where a sound is created by having these branches intertwine. This means that there is more to keep in mind at one given point, as pulling on one branch might shake the entire tree, so to speak. And this makes it less predictable to a beginner. It's easy to suddenly get something which sounds out of pitch, for example. In one way, a FM synth is more like a modular synth because the way you can change algorithms, and don't worry, we'll come to algorithms later, is a bit like patching a modular in a totally new way. When you change the algorithm on an FM synth, you very directly change the signal path, creating possibly a new and beautiful intertwined shape, or just a tangled mess. So where does this all leave us? Well, firstly, let's not get scared by the mathematical language of FM synthesis. And secondly, I think we should approach FM less like an equation and more as a creative journey, where we can explore sound in new and quite exciting ways. So with a basic understanding of FM synthesis, I would suggest using your ears and let your synth take you to strange and cool places. Frequency modulation means that you modulate the frequency or pitch of an oscillator. In other words, something is changing the pitch of the sound that you're hearing. A classic example of this would be the vibrato. On a synth, it's easy to set up. You set an LFO to modulate the pitch, and this gives you vibrato. This is frequency modulation which occurs at slow speeds, so you can actually hear the shift in pitch. So let's create a vibrato using just a sine wave. This is an initialized FMX patch on the ModX, and we are in the LFO section here. We're going to send the second LFO, a triangle LFO, to pitch modulation. Now, in an FM synthesizer, we use audio rate oscillators as opposed to low frequency oscillators, LFOs, to modulate other oscillators. And to be clear, an LFO is just an oscillator running at a speed so slow that we do not hear it. The LFO is simply not audible. An audio rate oscillator runs at a much faster speed than an LFO, so when applied to other oscillators, we perceive it as simply adding harmonics to the oscillator that we are hearing. Now let's compare using an LFO to modulate the frequency or pitch of an oscillator to audio rate modulations. So here I have two operators, operator number 4 and operator number 3, and we'll come to what operators are a little bit later. Operator number 4 here is the audible one. We can hear it. It sounds like a sine wave, because it is a sine wave. And with operator number 3, we can modulate the frequency or pitch of operator number 4. So let me show you when I introduce it and notice the added harmonics. We're still only hearing operator number 4. So we're basically using operator number 3 here to modulate the frequency or pitch of operator number 4 at audio rates. An operator is basically another word for oscillator, usually with a VCA and an envelope to control it. But as we will see in the Mod X, an operator can have many additional features which you might be unfamiliar with. So classic FM synths like the DX7 featured only sine waves. The DX7 was also one of the best-selling and most known of FM synths. The Mod X, however, features a more complex oscillator or operator section. For example, you can change the spectral form or waveform of the sound from sine wave to all these different waveform types. And you also have skirt and resonance that lets you simply create more complex waveform, which in turn can create some very intriguing and interesting modulations, since you can use an operator to modulate another operator. To learn more about spectral waveforms, skirt and resonance, check out Yamaha's excellent written tutorial linked below. Since we are talking about modulating oscillators with other oscillator, we use the term carrier and modulator to differentiate between oscillators that you can hear and oscillators that are simply modulation sources. The audible oscillators are called carriers, and the oscillators used to shape the sound are called modulators. Let's take a closer look at the relationship between operators and modulators by creating a sound on the Mod X. In the operators section, we also have an amp envelope, which is pretty standard for an FM synth, where you can, for example, create, say, a more drawn out sound or a more plucky sound. In the operator section, there's also a pitch envelope. So for example, here I've applied a long attack so that the pitch will gradually rise. So let's listen to it. Pretty noticeable. If I increase it, you'll hear something cool. You can hear how the pitch rises over time due to the slow attack pitch envelope that we set up. And now if we introduce operator number 3, which is a modulator modulating operator number 4, interesting things start to happen. So at this point, we actually have two modulations going on. We have operator number 3 modulating operator number 4, and we also have some pitch modulation, envelope to pitch, going on over at operator number 4. And suddenly we have a pretty complex sound already. And this is just using 2 out of the 8 operators available. But let's say we don't want a pad. We want more of a bass type sound. So let me just decrease the decay a bit here. Make it a little snappier. And we'll go down an octave. So that's a sound without a pitch envelope. Now let's introduce a bit of pitch envelope and see what happens. Suddenly you have a little bit more twang to the sound, like a twanginess. Now we can go into operator number 3 here and apply some pitch envelope as well. And let's remember, operator number 3 is a modulator modulating operator number 4. The longer the decay, the more noticeable the pitch change. So let's keep it kind of short. So without any pitch modulation on the third operator, let's increase it. And of course, if we change the waveform here on operator number 3, which is modulating operator number 4, we'll get a different sound. So let's pick Res 1. I think it sounds a little bit broken, so what we'll do is we'll increase the coarse tuning, the ratio between the modulator and the carrier, and we'll get to those two terms in a second. And we will increase the resonance to 27, and we'll decrease the third operator a bit, the one that's modulating operator number 4. So using the different available waveforms as well as the pitch envelope and amp envelope, we can already see that you have plenty of ways to shape your sound, and this is not even touching on some of the more complicated stuff that we'll get into. For some, but not all FM synths, algorithms can be used as the starting point of any sound that you want to make, but it can be a little bit confusing. On a traditional synth, there is almost always a fixed signal path with some possibility to deviate or set up modulation routings. On an FM synth, you could see the algorithms as you choosing between different signal paths. At the start, you will feel like it's more a random choice, but as you learn more about how to shape sound with an FM synth, you will start to pick algorithms which makes sense for what you want to make. So on the Modex, we have plenty of algorithms to choose from. You go into an FMX patch to the Commons, and there you can pick from different algorithms. There are 88 total. Let me just touch on one important thing. The bottom row here, 1, 2, 5, and 8, are the audible operators. Those are the carriers that we talked about. So if I turn all these down here to 0, you can't hear anything. If I turn number 1 up here, you can hear something because number 1 is an audible operator. But if I turn up number 3, you won't be hearing anything. This is because number 3 in this particular algorithm is a modulator. So this is why algorithms are a little bit confusing sometimes. So the first thing you have to note is, where are my operators that I can hear, my carriers, and where are the modulators that I use to modulate sound? So in this particular algorithm, for example, you can see that operators number 1 and 2 are audible, but they have no modulators, whereas operators number 5 have 2 modulators, number 3 and 4. So if I introduce operator number 4 here, which is a modulator, you'll hear the harmonics change on operator number 5. But an algorithm like this also has a very interesting thing going on, where operator number 4 is also impacted by operator number 3. So let's listen here. This is 4 going into 5, and we add 3. To make this even more noticeable, we can go into operator number 3 and we can do a longer attack. And we should also change the spectral form to something which is more noticeable. What you're hearing now is operator number 5, just a sine wave, and now we introduce number 4, which modulates number 5. And now let's introduce operator number 3. So you hear how operator number 3 comes in more slowly because of the envelope that we had set up now. Algorithms can be super confusing. To learn even more, go and watch MadFame's and Synthesizer Keith's videos on algorithms. Feedback means that the oscillator feeds back into itself, creating more complex waveforms. This was one of the old ways of creating more complex sounds on a DX7, for example, as it only had sine waves. For example, you can use feedback to create a saw waveform out of a sine wave. To showcase feedback, I picked algorithm number 1, and as you can see on algorithm number 1, feedback is on operator number 1. You can notice it by this little square around operator number 1. And as you can see, we have the feedback parameter here. And as you can hear, when I turned it up to 7, we have something that sounds a bit more like a saw wave. And there are of course algorithms where the feedback is located on a modulator. So on algorithm 2, for example, you can read that operator number 1 is a modulator and it in turn has the feedback on it. The FM ratio is the tuning relationship between the carrier and the modulating oscillators. A 2-to-1 ratio would mean that the modulator is twice the pitch of the carrier, or in musical terms, 1 octave higher than the carrier. Just to give you an idea for what this sounds like, here is operator number 5. Let's introduce operator number 4. And it modulates it. And as you can hear, it sounds very harmonic and nice. Now, if I change the coarse tuning of operator number 4 to 2, so we get a 2-to-1 ratio, we get a more bright sound. If I go to 4, we're up an octave even more. As with anything regarding FM synthesis, there is great theoretical explanations. However, I would also advocate using your ear. Experiment with the coarse tuning of modulators and carriers and see if you can find something that sounds good. To learn more about ratios, please go and watch Floyd's excellent tutorial on FM synthesis and ratios, and he's actually a patron of Bow Beats. The patrons are the ones sponsoring most of the videos here on the channel. To end this introduction, I'd like to take what we've talked about and put it into practice on the Mod X. Now let's put everything that we've learned into practice. I'm in a new FMX patch here in the commons. We're still on algorithm 11. I've increased feedback, which affects operator here number 3. So just a sine wave. Let's go to number 5. That's the one we're listening to. Let's change the spectral waveform. I want to create a bass sound, so I want something with decent low end. Let's turn down the coarse frequency to 0, so 1 octave further down. And I'm just turning down the release a bit. And we're not doing anything with the pitch envelope here. Now let's go to, let me just go back and double check here. So we go to operator number 4, which is the first modulator. Let's go with this. Let's introduce some attack. So you can hear operator number 5 solo just at the start of the sound, and then operator number 4 here comes into play. And just playing around a little bit with the amp section here on operator number 4, we have a pretty cool drone type sound. Okay, pretty cool so far. Not exactly the bass that I was thinking of, more like a drone type pad, but yeah, I guess it works. So let's go into operator number 3 here. Let's increase it. I'm not sure about that. I want something. Let's see here. First off, I want to increase the coarse tuning. I want it to be brighter. But it's still a little bit boring. So I want to try and see what happens if I introduce a lot of pitch here with the pitch envelope. Let's just add some attack. Let's turn it down a bit. Now you can hear there's like a slight fluctuation that comes in. And since we have an algorithm where 1 and 2 is also audible carriers, we can just go into number 1 here. And let's see, yeah, I have it set up here to a spectral form Res 2, skirt 4, and resonance 6. Let's increase it and listen to it. So what we could do is we could try and do something with the pitch on operator number 1 here, the carrier. So suddenly we have a very spacey sound. And if we play around a little bit with the amp envelope here, it's less noticeable, doesn't take up as much space in the sound. Now this is of course without any effects, so we can actually go in here to the comment section here, effects, and we can add something. Lovely. And we can add, say, a delay as well. So this was just an introduction, and I have listed a bunch of resources in the description which are great starting points for learning more about FM synthesis and the more technical aspects of it. As always, thank you for watching my videos. If you liked the video, hit the thumbs up and consider joining my Patreon. I'm working towards making videos like this a full-time job, so your help is super important. Thank you so much and have a great day. Talk to you later.